Well, I'm not going to speak about atrocities, although I'm connected to the Romanian. And I would like to start with a short story. On September the 8th, 1947, on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, 500 children and youth from all over Romania were assembled at the train station in Bucharest. The common denominator that connected the children was their affiliation to youth movements that emerged immediately after the end of the World War II in Romania. Among the children were orphans who went through the hell of Transnistria and survived the ghettos and camped in Transnistria. Among them, there were also children who experienced the horror of the Holocaust within Romania itself. The aim was to escape to Holland at the last minute and escape from the clutch of the communism. This was made possible by the consent of the Dutch government to host the children in order to the cooperation with the Dutch, with the Nazis, and to join the joint. It was carried out by the Jewish Agency and the emissaries of youth Aliyah from Palestine, as well as the warm support of the Jewish community in Holland and the municipality of the town of Apeldoorn. The Dutch government hosted the children and financed the expense for the stay and the activities in the village. The site chosen in Holland for these children was located in a forest some 4 kilometers from the town of Apeldoorn and was given the name Ilania. Remember the name. It is important to know that this site served as a Jewish sanatorium for the mentally ill before the war. The Nazis took over the camp during World War II and deported the inmates as well as the staff to the extermination camps. The Nazis used the location for their headquarters instead. In preparation for the arrival of the children in 1947, the site was organized as an autonomous unit managed by an emissary from the Yishuv in Israel, together with the youth guide who accompanied the children when the children arrived to the train station in the town of Apeldoorn. They were taken to the children's village by bus. In the village itself, there were several two-story buildings scattered in a beautiful grove. Members of the various youth movements and their youth guides were concentrated in these buildings according to the number of children. These buildings bore the name of plant parts, such as roots, branches, seeds, and so on. Although the children were from different ages, from different places, with different educational backgrounds, the children's village established there was considered as a huge success story. The removal of 500 children from Romania and their rehabilitation after the war was an important undertaking both from the personal aspect of the children, but also an important Zionist enterprise that prepared the children for the immigration to Israel and their integration in the establishment of the young state on the way. Soon after the declaration of the establishment of the State of Israel, it was decided to close the village, and in October 1948, the group immigrated, made Aliyah to Israel on the first voyage of the steam passenger ship Negba. Aliyah to Israel was carried out through the Jewish Agency. 7 years later, in January 280, I met a group of 70 people who were among those children who were rescued from Romania to Apeldoorn in Holland. The excitement for this meeting was tremendous, especially on the day of meeting itself. The children fell on each other's necks. Their eyes were brimming with tears and excitement. The purpose of the meeting was to return and reconstruct their experiences and daily life during the year they had spent in the children's village of Ilania. This is what defined by them as the happiest of their life. At this stage, I would like to relate very briefly to the methodology of group testimony and then to show how this method is expressed in the case of the children of Ilania. One method for collecting information and data is in historical research is based on group testimony. The aim of this method, conducted as a group discussion, is to allow participants to interacting with each other, to tell their stories, and thus understand their experiences and the meaning they give to these experiences. The advantages of these methods are that one person's response served as stimulation to the other participants. As the result, the contact between the group members, new responses may arise. The disadvantage of such testimonies lies on the nature of the people who make the group. On the one hand, they may be that one of them will overtake the discussion and influence the reactions of the other participants, and the result will be a one-dimensional discussion. In another case, some introverted or shy group members, people who cannot express themselves in the group and will not contribute any information. Just like personal testimony, when the individual narrates his or her experiences and insights in hindsight, group testimony also tells the story of the event from the distance of time, and accordingly the insights is put forth are contemporary. Regarding the children's group Ilania, it was varied and included boys and girls representing different youth movements. One of the participants among the group members was a youth guide. With each of them, I held personal interviews that enabled me to get an initial picture of the research subject explored. So to return to the group testimony itself, we should ask the question, how was the contribution of the group testimony method reflected in reconstructing the children's experiences during 1 year only, 17 years after the events occurred. During the course of the group's testimony, the issues that came forth included such topics as separation for the parents, daily life in the children's village, the assimilation of the educational and the ideological values in the educational activities, the social connections between the youth guides and themselves, as well as the relations between them and the children who were far away from their parents, and more, those who had parents. As mentioned above, one of the issues that the participants were asked concerns the separation from home. From the participants' references, we can also learn how the children were selected for the list of travels to Holland. We can also learn of the parents' reaction, in this case, as I said, of those who had parents, regarding their joining this group. For example, we learn that there were parents who encouraged the children to join, the group of travelers to Holland, because they saw this trip as a chance to save their children. These parents made great efforts to ensure that the children would be included in the passenger list, and that they used various persuasion techniques. In the case of Yossi, his father had to use connections to include Yossi in the group of the travelers to Holland. Money, as well Yossi's ability to play the violin, convinced the organizer to include Yossi among the passengers. Furthermore, Yossi's father also persuaded him to join the passengers because he was saving himself, and promised that they would meet in the not too distant future in Israel. There were children selected by the youth movements to travel to Holland. Among these children were parents who opposed their journey. In these cases, the group members said that their insistence was one that prevailed in the end. In the case of Rachel, her parents feared separation from the 12-year-old girl because a large part of their extended family did not survive the Holocaust. Only because of her firm insistence did she succeed to join the group. As Rachel, Gideon said, "My decision was determined. I said to my family, I am going to Israel." He also was 12 years old. Among the group members was Hugo, one of the youth guide in the youth movement, just to understand, 17 years old. Youth guide. He said that together with other youth guides from other youth movements, they were responsible for those 500 children gathered from all over Romania who survived the inferno. At the train station in Bucharest, the youth guides waited for the young children aged 8 to 15. According to Hugo, the youth guides were chosen because they stood out for their charisma, commitment to the ideology, and daily activities within the youth movements. He added, "We, the youth guides, who also were very young, were afraid of the huge responsibility placed on our young shoulders because we had to fulfill the children's needs. We had to replace their parents day and night to give love and calm down moments of frustration, longing, diseases, all these in addition to ongoing educational activities." At this stage, we could see the advantage of the group testimony when Rachel testified. Hugo was our support. He took care of all of our physical and emotional needs. And when necessary, he was a friend, an older brother, an attentive ear, and a response to all our needs. The participants also mentioned the train journey from Bucharest to Holland, and in particular the warm welcome of the Dutch. The group testimony also made it possible to clarify another central and important issue that dealt with the children's daily life. When asked, the question arose as to how and what way the educational values and the Zionist ideology were integrated into shaping the children's worldview. As a part of this theme, the participants presented their experiences and supported each other, and concluded that despite the mutual concerns of parents and children and young youth guides, this year was defined as a great success and a special year in their lives. In this context, Sarah said, the field was sworn with love, devotion, and the passion of faith and the sense of mission that penetrated into the hearts of the youth guides and the teachers. For us, for all of us, this was a crucial year in shaping personality. These Sarah words, in fact, were repeated and were expressed in the words of the rest of the participants, who described each in their turn the way in which they assimilated educational and Zionist values. The participants mentioned and shared their memories of their experiences to daily life in the children's village. I examined the statements of the design of their worldview and how it was actually expressed. Their story created a mosaic picture from which we learn about daily life in the village. And so they said, explained and demonstrated. David. The social activities in the village was carried out in a spirit of Zionism, focusing on the love of the land of Israel. As a young generation, we were built the young state. Okay, I'll skip. Eliezer. We had a defined schedule not only for members of Zionist youth, but everyone. Dvorah said, every Friday evening we were happy to put our Shabbat clothes, a white shirt, and after dinner we had Shabbat welcoming. The participants also recall how youth guide organized tours via bike trips in the beautiful nature. Hugo was asked how did he know how to cope with children's hardships afterwards they were young children away from home. We had no, and he said, we had no psychologist or any other pedagogical instructor, but we used our intuition. The main thing was we were straight-headed. Hugo also explained how he held lessons. I taught the way I learned. I just applied my learning experiences. It worked. I skip. So to sum up, I would like to return to the title, The Most Fascinating and Happy Year in Our Lives, and quote Zipporah words. The most important that the children received was love, affection, along with personal attitude. All staff members, mostly the youth guides, did everything to reconstruct the children's trust and confidence in people, their hope for bright future, and the good life in their own country without ever being persecuted. According to sum up according the use of the collective testimony method. Its advantages and disadvantages, as expressed in the testimony itself, as demonstrated, the participants brought to light many days of daily life in the village, confirming each other's memories and reminding each other of the experiences and events. As in the case of a mixed group, some of the participants were especially active, while some were quiet. We must also remember that the testimony was not collective, but selective. These were just 70 people out of 500 former children that lived in Ilania in Holland. But, with a big however, I have to stress that I held many interviews with many others that testified about how fascinating was the year that they spent in Holland in the village of Ilania. And if I have 1 minute, I want to show you the photos that I skipped while these are the children in the train station. Okay. These are the train on its way to Apeldoorn. Here are the children. Look at the faces of the children, how happy they look. This is the children in the train. This is Yossi. This is Rachel I quoted. They were taken by bus to the Apeldoorn, to Ilania. This is the entrance of the village. And this is the Negba Voyager ship. This is Yossi. And these are the buildings of the village. These are a group of children. And you can, these are some activities. These are activities. This is the core. They had the core. These are the youth. Guys, thank you. I rest my case.